All right, we're back in the building with another episode of the Wrapped in Skin podcast. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope you've checked out the first couple of episodes and have gotten something from it. Have been excited about the content. I realize not a lot of y'all watching this YouTube channel, so that made me one or two things. Either you don't know the channel exists, and you just prefer to listen to it over watching me and listen to it, which I'm totally fine with. But there is a YouTube channel. We are up on YouTube. But if you're rocking via Spotify, via Apple Podcast, continue to watch it wherever you consume your podcast. Continue to listen to it. Continue to comment. Continue to share it if that's what you're doing. And I do apologize. I'm a little bit under the weather tonight, but I had something important I wanted to talk about, and I thought it was I wanted to get it out before I got too sick to talk about it. So not really sick. I don't really get sick, but I'm feeling a little bit run down, a little bit under the weather, probably because I'm running around so much, doing so many things as I'm prone to do, and not take enough breaks, not get enough rest. So that's where I'm at right now. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of meditation on this topic. I've been spending a lot of time with people who I trust. I talk to a lot about their experiences, their situations, and had some interesting dialogue around this topic. And the topic that I want to discuss is not one that's unfamiliar in the podcasting space. It's not unfamiliar in the social media space. And it's unpacked in multiple ways via interesting conversations sometimes, and sometimes not so interesting conversations. Sometimes perspectives are extremely skewed, and they usually come from one side and not both sides. So I'm well aware of that. And before I get started, I will say that this is my perspective on it. This is where I'm at. A lot of it is personal experience, but I am always the first to say that my opinion is just one opinion. So if you've got an opinion and you hear this and yours either coincides with mine or differs from mine, please let me know, because that's what I want to hear. I want to hear that feedback. So what am I talking about, Justin? All this rambling. What are you talking about? I am talking about relationships. Dun dun dun. Relationships. Whether you're in one, whether you're looking for one, whether you just got out of one, I think there's a couple things I'm going to talk about tonight that are interesting, worth pondering, worth considering, particularly if you are a man, right? Obviously, I'm a male. I'm speaking from a male perspective, and I'm also speaking from my own personal experiences. But relationships are tricky, right? I think the primary reason I wanted to talk about this topic is because depending on where you are in your life as a man, there are certain things that you're looking for in a relationship, certain things that you are aware of about yourself that you need to add to the relationship. And sometimes it comes with growth. Sometimes it comes with years. But keep this in mind, and I think a lot of us get this wrong. Age does not equate to experience. And if it does equate to experience, just because you're a certain age doesn't mean you've had good experiences. Also doesn't mean that those experiences have enriched you at all, right? So you can be jaded from certain experiences, and it can impact how you view relationships, the possibility of love, the possibility of partnership. So be careful when we equate someone's age to how experienced they should be in the category of relationships. Now, I said this, really the reason this was sparked is because I had this conversation with somebody the other day. And what I said was, I'm personally in what I consider the danger zone for men. And the danger zone is when you're at a space and time in your life where you finally feel like you're ready for a serious relationship. When I say serious relationship, I mean you're looking for your life partner. You know who you are. You know what you want. You also know that that person that you want is going to come with her own set of needs and wants, and you are ready to give those things. The reason it's the danger zone is because I believe men have a tendency, once we get to this phase in our life, in our dating life, that we snatch up whoever is in closest proximity. Right? So we go from having this natural vetting process, and some of our vetting processes is not as thorough as others, but when you get to a space where you're ready, you're sometimes so excited, so determined to get into a relationship or find your life partner that you gravitate towards the person who is, again, in closest proximity to you, which may or may not be the correct person for you. So you start to overlook certain things that you otherwise would not have overlooked if you weren't in this place. Now, the reason I think this differs for men and women is because a lot of times, I believe men take longer to get to this place. And this is an ongoing debate about why men don't commit early, and et cetera, et cetera. My personal belief is that most men, if they are trying to be the best husband, father, partner that they could be, they take longer in life to get to that place where they feel like they're ready to step up to the plate. And if you are a man of worth any salt, in my opinion, then you don't want to prematurely make that decision. And you understand that you don't have enough capacity to give everything that you need to give to a relationship. So you tend to not commit to those early. Now, that's just one reason. There's multiple reasons why men don't commit, but I think that's a big one. If you are a man who's really steadfast about being in a productive, long-term relationship, you want to have your ducks in a row. Like, you want to be able to provide and protect and do all the things that you're taught as a child that men are supposed to do. It's interesting because a lot of times when we talk about the family structure, we talk about the wife being the bond of the household, like really holding the household together. And I'm not disputing that. But if you look at the word husband, right, and if you dissect that word, it really means house bond. Husband, house bond. Meaning you are the glue that sticks the house together. And this is why when fathers are absentee, houses typically fall apart. Doesn't mean that single moms can't bootstrap it. I'm a product of a single parent household. But I also saw the toll that took on my mom. I saw how she had to operate mostly in her masculine energy, which was not conducive to a healthy, long life, right? The stress, the anxiety, all that started to take a toll on her. So when you remove the male from the household, there's a strain, undue, unnecessary strain that's put on the household. So, and even sometimes if the husband is in the house, but he's emotionally absent, he is mentally checked out, so he can be present in the physical realm, but not be present, if you know what I mean. So I said all that to say, when men who are conscious of this and aware that they want to be the best father and husband that they could be, they don't pull the trigger prematurely. They are very cautious about committing. Some say it's a fear of commitment. I don't believe that. Now, maybe some men have a fear of commitment, but I think what most men have is a fear of failure. All right, let me say that again. I don't think most men who want to get married, who want to be fathers, have a fear of commitment. I think the fear that they have deep down inside is a fundamental fear of failing in that endeavor to be a father and to be a husband. So they wait until they feel like they got it all together. Some of us never have it all together. And that's often the pushback you get from women who say, well, it's never going to be perfect. And that's right, but you want to get as close to perfect as possible. So when you get to that space, there's a tendency to say, okay, I'm good. I got everything right. I got the job, I got the career, I got the house, I got all that stuff. So now I need the woman. So let me just look around. Oh, you come, right? And if she is obviously interested in you and whatever, you may overlook things that, again, otherwise you may not have overlooked if you were not at a ready place, a place of readiness. And so that's what I call the danger zone. Now, what I think men should do is, I always got to kind of take it biblical, but uh, I think they should heed Daniel's advice. Now, it's been, for some reason, I don't know how many of you know the story of Daniel, but for some reason, there's been a lot of conversation over the past couple of weeks about Daniel, right? I've heard sermons about it from different pastors in different locations, different geographical areas, but they've all been talking about the story of Daniel. And one thing I thought stood out about the story of Daniel, and I want to equate it to this concept of grabbing anything that's close to you once you get ready, is that if you look at Daniel, Daniel's famous for basically two things. He is famous for his fast, refusing to eat the king's food. He's also famous for surviving the lion's den. What I want to focus on is his refusal to eat the king's food. Okay, so Daniel chapter 1, verse 8 says this: But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore, he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now, what does that have to do with this topic of relationships and grabbing the first person who's available in close proximity to you? What I take this to mean, and how I equate it, is that just because you're starving and you're hungry doesn't mean that you should accept any food. And you shouldn't accept it just from anybody. And so there's a lot of men and a lot of women who are out here starving for relationships, starving for love, starving for partnership. And just because someone offers you those things that may seem to quench your thirst doesn't mean, or your hunger doesn't mean you should accept it. It just because it's food doesn't mean it's something that you can digest. I'm gonna say that one more time. Just because it's food and someone's giving it to you doesn't mean it's something that you can digest. Just because it's partnership, companionship, it doesn't mean that it's right for you. And the reason why this is important is because I think there's a fatal mistake that can be made. And I use that strong language because it's real. Because I believe that, I've said this multiple times, that we're here, we live, we breathe for a purpose. There's a reason, there's a thing attached to our life, and that is the only reason we're breathing. And I think if you choose the wrong partner, it can destroy your purpose. It can destroy your purpose if you allow it to. Partnership is important. That being said, the opposite is also true. If you are connected to the right person, and the right person is helping you build, and you're helping them build, and you're energizing one another, and you're giving to one another in a way that's through love and fellowship and communion with one another in a productive way, it can elevate and accelerate your purpose like nothing else if you are connected to the right person and the right individual. So when you make those decisions, when you take those decisions lightly, it can either derail or propel you on your purpose path. It can either derail or propel. If you're taking notes, write that down. It can either derail or propel you on your. All right, so I've been talking to men a lot in the past, like 20 minutes or so. So, I don't know whether you guys know this or not, but the majority of my audience currently is female, right? So I'm definitely wanting to talk to some females. Now, my perspective is a male perspective, but I have aunts, I have sisters, I have nieces, I have women who basically I was raised and reared and taught by women. So I understand womanhood from an existential standpoint. Like I'm obviously not that. So take that with a grain of salt. But as much as you can gain from the outside looking in, I think I have that. that down. Now, all women aren't created equal. So, again, this is perspective. But what I do want to say to women is, I think currently we're in a space where women are also waiting longer and longer to be in committed relationships and get married and have kids. And that can be because of career, that can be because of shortage of men who are ready, that could be because of advancements in medicine, where now your biological clock isn't so much of a concern because there's things that you can do to extend that biological clock, or delay, I should say, that biological clock. But for whatever reason, women are also waiting longer and longer to commit. And I don't necessarily see the same thing wrong with that. I will say that what I am seeing is that when people finally do get together, it tends to be a longer lasting relationship. And I think that's primarily because in all the endeavors professionally that we go through that tends to delay our commitment, we start to get a better sense of who we are, right? We start to understand what our purpose is, what we need, what we desire, and who fits into that. Um, Now, there is some pushback on whether or not you should have a person who fits into your life, or you should fit into their life, but it's a partnership. So if you are developing a partnership or relationship, there should be a fit. There better be a fit. Otherwise, that partnership or that relationship is destined for failure. So you better decide what your deal breakers are, what your must haves are, and then who you are as an individual, and what you're bringing to the table as well. So I think because we're taking longer and longer to commit, once we finally do get together, um, that bond tends to be stronger because we've vetted ourselves. But women can also be in that danger zone where they're like, man, I really want to have kids. I really want to start a family. And you look around and you got a guy who is not necessarily your first choice, but he's ready, right? And then you get involved with this person because you didn't properly vet him, or you didn't take the time to assess yourself to see what is it about him that I desire, that I need, that I want. What is it about him? And you start to overlook red flags. If there's one thing I will say about the women that I know who are friends of mine, the amount of red flags that women overlook is still to this day, with the advent of social media and all that stuff and all the podcasts and all the information out there and all the women talking to one another about their relationships and what they should and shouldn't do. The amount of red flags that women overlook, it boggles my mind. Probably shouldn't, because they overlook them for the same reason I just said at the beginning that men do. You get to a place where you're so desperate to be in a relationship that you overlook things that you otherwise would not overlook. So how do you remedy all this? You refocus your attention on becoming the best version of yourself. By the way, you do know that the social media relationships that you see that you're putting up and you're saying, oh, relationship goals. This is what I want my relationship to be like. You do realize they're taking the best parts of their relationship, the best parts of their day, that one vacation that they took in the past 5 years, and they posted in segments on social media, so you can look at that and be like, they have such a great relationship. Are they going through some stuff? Because we all go through stuff, right? And so I think it's short-sighted when we base our relationship on what we see out there in the world, because it's so much easier to say, look what she has, look what he has, without knowing who they are as individuals. Like, just because they have a man that does XYZ, or they have a woman who does XYZ, that works for them. But you can have that same person in your life and it not work for you, because you're different people. You need different stuff. You move differently. Your viewpoint and perspective on the world is different. So you can have this person who looks like the perfect partner, and they come into your life and be a disaster for you because you don't fit together. And that's, again, while I'm saying that it's important that you find someone who fits into your life. Now, that doesn't mean be so inflexible and dogmatic on what you believe that you don't allow for growth and development and a change of heart, change of opinion, change of perspective. You have to have somebody that challenges you enough to look in the mirror and say, where do I need to grow? What areas of my life do I need to grow in? Um, so just because again somebody's having they look like they got it all together on social media, even your friends. I mean, you got some friends who, let's be honest, they don't tell you the 100% truth. They don't tell you everything that's going wrong in their relationship typically until it's so transparent that something is wrong that they have no choice but to let the cat out of the bag per se. But they'll tell you everything that's going right. They'll emphasize all the good stuff about what's going on in their relationship, and they'll sweep the rest under the rug because they don't want to air out their dirty laundry. And I say again, be cautious of that. When you're getting advice from people, whether those people are in relationships, whether they're single, understand that what they're telling you from their point of view and from what their needs are and what their desires are and what their purpose is. So the same things that they're going through, the same things that they desire are not going to necessarily align with what you have. And the only way to identify what it is that you want, you need, you desire is to understand your purpose in life and to understand how a person fits into that purpose path. And if they don't fit into your purpose path, meaning if you and God have gotten to a place where you understand, all right, God, I know this is what you've created me to do. This is what I'm going to do. I'm steadfast about it. I am committed to it. If you find a person who is in juxtaposition with whatever that purpose is that God has designed and created and called you to do, but yet and still they check some superficial boxes and you say, oh, we can make that work. And then 10 years down the line, you look around and you realize you're nowhere near your purpose path. You've strayed so far away because you've gotten so tangled up and tied up and connected to this person who was not placed in your life to propel you forward. They in turn actually derailed you from your purpose path. It is because you didn't properly vet them or didn't properly understand what it is that you needed and desired in order to fulfill your purpose. Look, this thing about relationships, again, we can go on and on and on and on about how we should behave, what we should do, what we should look for. Be careful who you take advice from. Even if you are taking advice from me, vet it. Understand that I'm looking at it through a certain lens, social lens, gender lens, experiences. I'm looking at it through that lens. So take what you will, leave the rest, but make sure that in all of your getting, you get understanding fundamentally about who you are. And when the anxiety comes because you're looking around and everyone's in a relationship or everyone's having kids or everyone's getting married or everyone's going on vacation and taking vacation pics, vacations, they're doing all that stuff. So when you start to feel that anxiousness, that angst around why am I not in a relationship, that you bring it back to yourself and you understand that you've got plenty of time. I don't care how old you are, you've got plenty of time. Because what you will do is if you get the wrong partner, you're going to waste time anyway. So if you say, well, I don't have time, I need to really get into a relationship, go do it. If you get the wrong one, you've just wasted more time than just being patient, finding out what God has for you, perfecting who you are as an individual, and then finding someone who is in alignment with what God has created. I don't care what you're in. I don't care what you like, what you're into, what kind of wild and crazy things you enjoy, endeavor to do. There's somebody out there who can rock with you, right? So instead of settling, wait until that person shows themselves, because they will. There's 8 billion people in the world. Whatever you're into, whatever you feel like you're designed to do, there's somebody out there for you. So yeah, I hope this helped you a little bit. I hope you took a couple of nuggets from it. It was short and sweet, but well, I think we'll probably unpack this topic some more, sort of like we're going to unpack the topic of the Holy Spirit, because let me tell you what, that episode got so many comments, so many thoughts about what I had to say about the Holy Spirit and Jesus Christ and biblical principles. But the relationship thing, again, this is one of these things that we talk about a lot on a superficial level, but we don't often connect it to our purpose and connect it to what it is that we're here designed and created to do. And yeah, I think we should do more of that. So the next time we talk about relationships, this is the tip of the iceberg. I just, wanted to broach the topic. Next time, I have a couple people in mind I think I'm going to talk to about it. We're going to go back and forth with their perspective on relationships, and see if we can, unravel this thing a little more. So as always, I appreciate y'all rocking with me. Thank you for bearing with me with my voice and my, a little bit under the weather today, but, there's a couple of y'all who are really, man, y'all keep me inspired. Y'all keep me motivated. This is something new that I'm doing. There's going to be times where it feels like, man, why are you doing this? What's it all for? But there's a lot of stuff that I do that I'm putting in deposits right now. I'm planting. I'm in a planting season. If you know that you're in a planting season, you can relate. And hopefully, if you are in a planting season and you understand what that means, then you will help me continue to spread these messages, continue to plant, because there will be a harvest. There will be a harvest. Now, what that looks like, I don't know, don't really care, but I'm just faithful in the planting season. So y'all keep rocking with me. And as I say always, for this time, while you're wrapped in this skin, you will be, if you choose it to be so, the best version of God. I love y'all. Y'all be good. Talk soon. That's a wrap for this episode, pun intended. I want to thank you for joining us. We hope that you learned something about yourself. Hopefully you heard something that you had otherwise never thought of in that way. We welcome your comments. Please share, subscribe, talk about this with your friends. Our goal is to talk next time about something that you want to hear specifically. So comment, message us, email us, let us know what you want to hear, what you want us to talk about, what you thought about this episode, and we'll catch you next time. That'll be good.